Welcome to Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. I am Will Power, your host and analyst. And joining me today is John Murrow, who is not a Dodgers fan, but it doesn't say not a Dodgers fan anymore. So I definitely got to fill that out. You know, wearing the Phillies hat, that's kind of a given right there, right? And we got Javi the commish on as well, a big Dodgers fan, just like I am. Got to throw that out as well, But all right, we are here and we have player breakdowns, waiver wire must adds, and weekend streamers. So there's a lot of players that we got to talk about, and we are the guys to break it down all for you. And we will be back right after this. If it comes to the point where I see Matt Olson there, and I know that Bryce Harper and Pete Alonso are still waiting in the wings, like maybe a round or two later, I think I'm passing on Matt Olson.
They're home run after home run after home run. I was like, holy crap! Like, it's the old Altuve, you know.
I'm going after guys like Austin Riley that's gonna hit close to 40 home runs with a decent batting average.
It has nothing to do with the luxury tax or any of that stuff, dude. It's just the owners want to bring a champion to a team. They're gonna do whatever it takes.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And before we get started, I do want to mention one thing. I want to give a shout out to John. John is actually the newest member of Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. He is a permanent part of the show now. We were always looking for guys to kind of just come on as guest appearances and everything. And sometimes I'm not able to make it. Just like last week, I was in Puerto Rico. I wasn't able to be on the show. There's sometimes when Javi can't make it. There's vacations and stuff going on. So adding a third member to this team actually just makes sense, I think. And I just want to welcome John to the show. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you guys having me full time. I'm super excited to talk ball and help everyone's fantasy team out in the meantime.
Yeah, now we get three perspectives instead of just two. So it was kind of cool. So a few seasons ago, we actually had one of our buddies. Oh, he was on the show last week, Tony Snap. So he used to be on the show as well, and then he kind of had to step away a little bit. He had home stuff going on, and he didn't want to show up every single week, which is absolutely fine. People have other things going on. So we are happy that you're part of the show, man, permanently. And it's exciting times for Real Talk Baseball. And we should be adding Real Talk Football to our YouTube channel anytime now. We just have to get all the details and stuff out of the way with the guys that are doing the football show. So that should be up and running maybe in the next week or two, hopefully. So yeah, look out for Real Talk Football on this channel, whether you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or you're watching on YouTube. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get right into the nitty gritty. Today, we are talking about player breakdowns. And let's see, I am not going to go first today. I am going to go ahead and go to Javi with his player breakdown pick.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the show. So my player breakdown, it's a weird one for me because I was really high on this guy when we were drafting. I'm talking about Oneil Cruz from the Pirates. He is owned in 93% of Yahoo. And sad to say, it's kind of a disappointing season so far. He is not producing the way that we know he can. I know last season I think after 9 games, he got injured. It was an ankle, and he was out, for the rest of the season. The Pirates are very high on this guy, and he came back, and I literally he could potentially be a 30-30 guy. But the way it's kind of going, he might be a 20-20 guy. Like that's probably more reachable for him as far as this season goes. I know it's still early. I don't want to say, drop him, or if there's a trade out there that makes sense for this guy, then by all means. But for the season, he's batting 244. He has 5 home runs, 12 RBIs, and 675 OPS. I really thought that he was gonna break out this year. Like I said, still early, but I feel like his ankle issue is still kind of lingering. He's not stealing bases. He's a fast dude. Um, all the little things that I always talk to you guys about that, might get a player started, like, when we were talking about Jackson Holiday and the slumps that he was having, maybe if he gets on base and he steals a couple bases, it'll get him going. Where my thought process was with Oneil Cruz. Um, he the past couple games he's put the ball in play. So maybe he's kind of starting to find his way. I have personally in my my fantasy team. I'm not dropping him. And if I'm pretty sure nobody's taking a trade for him right now because he's just not producing the way that we all thought. There's people that have, you know, when they did their draft, they drafted him pretty high, man. So for him to be like where he's at right now, it's kind of a miss there. Um, so I'm still hoping. I'm giving it maybe till All-Star break, see where he's at. But yeah, to me, dude, Oneil Cruz, I think I wasn't the only one that was high on him. There's a couple other people that I know that were pretty high on this guy. So, um, you know, if there's a trade out there that makes sense, do it. I personally won't move on just yet, but I'm hoping that this week, he's had a couple hits and stuff like that, and he's gotten on base. Um, excuse me. I'm just gonna wait it out a little bit. But yeah, he's one of those guys that you gotta kind of keep an eye on because even the Pirates as a team, they started off hot again like last season, and now they're kind of falling into the realm of where they're supposed to be at. But we'll see. But I'm hoping that Oneil Cruz can turn it around after this week.
Yeah, there's so many different comparisons between Oneil Cruz and Ellie De La Cruz. The height, the build, the max exit velocity, the speed on the base paths. It's like both of those guys, they're from the same cloth, And honestly, if you believe in Ellie De La Cruz, I see no reason why you shouldn't believe in Oneil Cruz either. I They are in the same division, the National League Central, which is crazy because a couple seasons ago, the Reds and the Pirates are just, terrible. But now it's like it looks like both teams have a very bright future, coming into 2026, 2027. I feel like Oneil Cruz may be in a little bit of a slump right now, 36% strikeout rate. It's nothing to write home about. But I feel like the future is going to be bright for Oneil Cruz. And do we believe in him for this season? I don't know. That's a real tough one just because he, like you said, he came off of that really big catastrophic injury, and trying to get back into the swing of things after such an injury, he couldn't do anything for almost a year, man,
Yeah.
and that's a long time for
Yeah.
a
Maybe
sport that
I feel like
requires.
maybe that's why he can't steal bases and stuff.
It could be. I even saw him running into home yesterday, and he looks awkward when he's running. I feel like he doesn't trust his body to be able to handle certain things right now. He does have 3 stolen bases, if I'm not mistaken, but I I think he has the speed where it should be closer to like 10 right now. But I think that, as the season progresses, the weather starts getting a little bit warmer, then, his body will he'll learn to trust his body a little bit more. It's been a year since his accident. It was right in the beginning of last season that it actually happened, but it was a huge injury,
Yeah.
and hopefully he's 100% now, but only time will tell. But yeah, for
Yeah.
those that have Oneil Cruz, don't drop this guy. He's still somewhat producing. He's batting 252 with a 299 OBP. That's not too bad. 692 OPS. I'd like to see that up in the 700s, which are, he's almost right there. It would be nicer for him to be in the 800s, but that's a lot to ask for a guy that didn't play, majority of last season. So go ahead, John. What were you going to say?
I'm a bit torn on Oneil Cruz just because we were actually talking about him yesterday a little bit at the Phillies game, and my buddy had drafted him in the 4th round, which was very, very, very early. And you can be high on a guy, and you got to believe in your guy and take chances to win your fantasy leagues. But shout out Tyler, that's a reach. Oneil Cruz was actually dropped in my ESPN league, and I say torn on this guy just because I wasn't ready to use a waiver wire pickup on him. But if he was just a normal free agent, I would have added him. Someone used their waiver claim on him, and he's starting to pick it up a little bit here. But yeah, definitely a disappointing season, and you'd like to see a lot more out of a guy with that much potential. So, but if you can be patient with him, he's worth holding on to for sure.
Yeah, especially in categories leagues where the strikeouts don't matter as much. He's going to be, he hits the ball especially hard. Let me see real quick. His max exit velocity is 116.4 miles an hour, and his average exit velocity is 93.4. That's crazy, man. He is 95th percentile in the league. So he's hitting the ball really freaking hard. It's just, it's not resonating. I'm wondering what his ground ball rate. Let's see. Ground ball percentage is 55%. So that's 11 points higher than league average. So same problem as Elly De La Cruz. He's just hitting the ball on the ground too much. But, he's young. He has time to develop. More often than not, a lot of those really hard hit ground balls are going to find holes in the infield, and they're going to be base hits, which is why his expected batting average is a little bit lower than his actual batting average. But with his speed, he's going to be able to leg out those singles, those hard hit, ground balls that most of Major League Baseball players would be out on those plays. But him and Elly De La Cruz, they have the speed where they can actually, make it to first, and that's a skill that is not acquired. It's either you have it or you don't, and he has it. He just needs to learn to trust his body, I think, a little bit more. But that'll come with a little bit of time. I think towards the end of the season, we're going to start looking at Oneil Cruz as, maybe he really was worth his draft pick. So, all right, John, that was Javi's pick. Now let's go over to your pick. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to break down a guy that I don't want to say high on, but I also expect a lot more. And even throughout the rest of the season, I expect a lot more. And that's Gleyber Torres. This guy has shown flashes of being a bona fide superstar in the league. And he's also shown flashes of Javi Baez, and this is a guy that confuses me a lot. He's just not consistent. It's a guy that I snagged off of Waiver Wire a few weeks back in my ESPN league because he was drafted pretty early, and I consider anything within the first 10 rounds, an early draft pick that you want to be a little more patient on. So I snagged him. I've been holding on to him here a little bit, but his leash is starting to get a little bit shorter now that I have Vaughn Grissom. So I'm waiting for him to get some second base eligibility. So, but until that happens, right now Gleyber's batting .213, 1 home run, and 7 RBIs in 141 at bats, and he's in the lower third of a dangerous Yankees lineup, and he's batting 6th, sometimes 7th, and he's just not really producing at all. In spring training, this guy hit .356 with 3 homers, 7 RBIs, and 45 at bats. So I was feeling pretty good about him coming into the season, but taking in just a little bit deeper dive into his numbers this year, that .213 batting average is actually higher than his expected batting average of .210. So not great there. It's saying that he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. It's not, luck one way or another. His expected slugging percentage is .290. Average exit velocity is below league average at 88.1 miles an hour. He's below league average in barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, whiff percentage, K percentage. His chase percentage, base running value, and fielding are the only categories he's above league average on, but that's not really going to help you win your fantasy league here. So, He's also sporting, for those into WAR, he's got a negative -0.1 WAR. So that's not exactly good either. So you need to see more out of a guy like Gleyber, and that has to happen soon for him to not hit the waiver wire again. So as far as Gleyber's career, this is why I chose him as a guy to really break down and just see what's going on with him. Throughout his career, he's been a guy that's almost been hit or miss. He's not exactly the definition of consistent. For reference, he's got a negative -0.1 WAR now. He's a career 3.0 WAR guy for his career in 7 seasons. He's 5 years removed from receiving MVP votes, where he hit 278 with 38 homers and 90 RBIs in 2019. After 2019, going into the pandemic season, 160 plate appearances. He had 3 home runs and 16 RBIs. So take that with a grain of salt. It's a pandemic year, but coming into 2021, he hit 259, 9 homers, and 51 RBIs. So it's the power just appeared there for a couple years. 2022 and 2023, it came back a little bit. 2022, he hit 24 homers, 25 homers in last season. Last season, he also hit 273 with 68 RBIs. So we know he has it in him. Just this year, we're seeing below average, below his career averages in batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS. And right now with a 213 batting average, just 1 home run, this is just a guy you can't wait around for and just hope he turns it around. He's borderline droppable right now, and I'm not going to give it too much longer myself here, especially with a guy like Vaughn Grissom perhaps on the horizon here. So
yeah, it's really hard, when you draft a guy like, do you know what his ADP was this season?
In my league, in my ESPN league, he was drafted in the 8th round, 82 overall. I want to say he was probably right in that range, probably 80 to 100-ish, so not early, not late, but, a guy you want to be producing for you when you pick him up in the 8th round. So.
Yeah, a guy you want to be producing for you, but it's also not so early where you feel really bad about dropping someone. If you can find someone on the waiver wire that you think long term will be a better option, then it wouldn't stop me, from dropping and picking up someone else. But I want to compare Gleyber Torres 2024 to last season, his 2023. So in April last year, batting average was down 242. On base percentage was up 352. So he was walking a lot. And that came with 3 home runs, comparing that to this year. In April, he was batting 233 with a 292 OBP. So not too different on the batting average, but he's just not walking that much. 0 home runs. That's the big one for me, versus last season. In April, he hit 3 home runs. And then you fast forward to May, he hit 5 home runs with a 286 batting average, but then gets in a little bit of a slump in June last season, batted 198 with a 270 on base percentage. Still had some power, hit 3 home runs, so the first 3 months were just kind of mid, except for those 5 home runs in May. Like that's pretty decent. That's at least 1 a week with like 1 extra, somewhere in there. Coming back to 2024, we 174 batting average in May, 296 OBP. So at least he's walking a little bit more, than in April. Only 1 home run so far, like you said. But, going back to 2023, in July, he batted 275 with 4 home runs. In August, batted 327 with 7 home runs. And in September, 290 with 2 home runs. So pre-All-Star break, very mid, 251 batting average with a 325 OBP. But then fast forward to post-All-Star break, 302 batting average with the 374 on-base percentage. So I just feel like Gleyber Torres is one of the guys that you just kind of have to weather the storm a little bit, maybe in the beginning of the season. And hopefully you have some wins already this season in your fantasy league, so that way you're not forced to drop a guy like this. But guarantee if you drop Gleyber Torres, someone else is picking him up. at least in a 12-team league or deeper. Maybe not so much in a 10-team league because there's so many players available out there. But Gleyber Torres, I feel like if you invested in this guy, if you drafted in this guy, at least give him until the end of May. See what he can do until the end of May. It's only a few more weeks, and I know if you're 0-5 already, it's really hard to just keep a guy like this in your lineup. It's a little bit easier in categories leagues because you don't need all those pitchers on your bench like you do in a points league. But I think, if I have Gleyber Torres, I think that I would just kind of like weather the storm a little bit and ride with him at least until the end of May. And then, if he still hasn't picked it up yet, maybe we're thinking about a drop. But I think it's a little bit too early to be thinking about dropping Gleyber Torres just because of the track record, from previous seasons, how he's had some slow starts in the beginning and then he just turns it on later on. So any thoughts?
I'm with you. I was going to add to that real quick, just to say that I think having a guy like Gleyber who's not producing, maybe it's a guy you're not putting in your starting lineup every day, but you got to have a good backup or insurance plan for. A guy that I'll quickly say before we really dive into the waiver wire pickups here, I picked up Michael Massey, just to kind of have as my backup second baseman in case I'm not feeling Gleyber that day. And, he's really produced right now with a 281. Batting average, 3 homers. I think he's got 12 RBIs. So, coming out of nowhere for the Royals, who are hot. But
yeah, and I was actually looking at Michael Massey myself, and I was thinking about picking him up, and I haven't yet. Luckily, it's in a different league where you can't snatch him away from me. Although Kevmo, he took away some of my ad drops that I was actually going to make this morning. I thought everyone was already done, and then this dude's making moves at 4:00 in the morning. Like, bro, everyone's supposed to be asleep right now. This is supposed to be my time. Me and Javi are the only ones that are awake. I did. I texted him. I was like, "Go to sleep,
dude." As soon as 3 a.m. hits, I'm on that shit, man. I'm trying to see who I can snag.
And I'm figuring like me and you were the only ones that are probably going to be awake, but I know Tony sets his alarm, and he wakes up to make his ad drops, and I'm sure there's other people in the league that do the same thing, But luckily for Javi and I, we have jobs where we're awake at that time, when they do the Yahoo turnover, so we do have a little bit of a time. I believe, Javi, you drive a forklift, right? At work?
Yeah.
Yeah, I drive a forklift also. And sometimes, I probably shouldn't be saying this on the air, but I'll like hide in a little corner and figure out, what kind of food that I'm making, that I'm trying to make for the day. So that way, someone else just doesn't wake up in the middle of their sleep and make this ad drop that I was kind of like debating. It's usually like I'm thinking like, well, he's still there. He's probably still going to be there in an hour, and I think about it. And then sometimes guys like Kevin will just log on and snatch him up right from under me. So I think I got to be a little bit more decisive in moments like that, and no more waiting around.
You spent so much time yesterday at the Phillies game, watching the Dodgers game on your phone. We're in left field. He's watching the Dodgers game, going through the waiver wire pickup, like just scrolling through guys he could pick up. I'm like, okay, all right. So,
hey, the Blue Jays were already up. What was
Dude,
it
enjoy the game, bro. What the hell?
Hey, I enjoyed the first 6 innings. I didn't do anything the first 6 innings. And then after the 7th inning stretch, I'm like, all right, Dodger game just started. And I'm showing John how like I don't have any blackouts on my phone. I can get like every game. And hey, fantasy baseball never stops, man. It's all day, every day until the last day of the season, until the last day of the fantasy season. So.
I wanted to add on John's Gleyber Torres breakdown. I think his comparison to Javi Baez is spot on, dude. Like this dude is like, one season he's great, the next season he's trash, the next season he's great, or first half of the season, dude, it literally reminds me of Javi Baez, man. But I just feel like Gleyber's got maybe a little bit more upside because he's just done a lot more with it, and he plays on a better team. So I think I have Gleyber in one of the leagues that I'm in. And I've just got to write it out, man, because you see the potential. It's there. Maybe he is a second half guy. You just got to kind of wait it out. And it's funny with him, dude. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I draft, he's always there when you need that position. He's always lingering in there when you're looking for a second baseman, and you're like, "Damn, do I pick him up or maybe somebody else?" But then you know what he can do, and he's on a good offensive team, so you're like, "Well, screw it, I'll just take my chance." So
Yes,
I think
that's where
John's Javi Baez is spot on, dude.
good comp. So I think when you're drafting, I know it's late in the season to be talking about drafting, but if I'm picking up a guy like Gleyber Torres and I know, he has his ups and downs, a very streaky player, later on in the draft, I'm thinking like, all right, I need a backup for this guy, whether it's a prospect coming up, that has an invite to spring training that might make the team, or just someone that I think is a little bit safer player, because Gleyber Torres is the type of guy that could win your week for you. He had 7 home runs in a month in May last season, and that could easily win a week for you, if he has 3 home runs in a week. So I'm thinking during the draft, like, all right, if Gleyber Torres is my starting second baseman, I'm looking towards the like middle rounds to try to like find another second baseman that will at least produce for me, some runs, some RBIs. You're not really going to find a lot of power later on in the drafts like that, but possibly guys like a Davis Schneider or something like that has upside as well. I'm always looking for upside if I don't fully trust the guy that I drafted in the position originally.
Fair point.
All right, so that was Javi. I was about to say Javi Baez. That was Gleyber Torres. All right, now we're gonna go to my pick, and all right, my pick is George Springer, who I know. There's my cheat sheet. A lot of people were really salty about George Springer a few seasons ago after the Astros scandal, the cheating scandal, and he moved on from the Astros and he moved on to the Toronto Blue Jays. He got a pretty decent contract, after his big run with the Astros. And I think seeing what he does now in Toronto, it kind of does put things in perspective of the type of lineup that they had, in Houston. And maybe he was one of the ones that participated in the cheating scandal, and maybe he wasn't. I don't know. But the way that he's playing this year, I don't know, man. It seems like if I kind of wish he knew what pitches were coming, so that way we wouldn't see the 205 batting average with only 3 home runs. And I've seen some stolen bases from George Springer. I've seen 5 stolen bases so far, which is great to see, but only an 582 OPS. Now, the thing that does give me a little bit of hope for George Springer is his batting average sits at 205, but his expected batting average is 265. So he's been a little bit unlucky, and 265 is actually closer to what he's been at for the past few seasons now. So George Springer was an 8th round pick for 12-team leagues. ADP was around 99, so a little bit after Gleyber Torres, like John was saying. But to me, when you see your 8th round pick struggle at the plate, and we're already close to mid-May now, panic starts to sink in, like John was saying with Gleyber Torres. And, I mean, Springer was going ahead of guys like Teoscar Hernandez, who has just been on a tear lately. I think he's close to leading the league in home runs. I think he has 10 or 11 home runs. I think Marcelo Osuna actually has the league lead in home runs right now. But hey, for a guy that doesn't even play every single day because they like to, Dave Roberts likes to platoon, his outfield. He's been doing great, batting 259 with 9 home runs and an 815 OPS as of a few days ago. I think he hit another home run yesterday, so he's up at 10. But I think that's kind of more or less what you can expect from a top 100 pick. You want a guy that's close to 260 batting average, or even a little bit less if he's producing like Teoscar with 10 home runs. Let's see. So Springer has been slowly declining the last 3 seasons. I wonder why. Typically, you don't see this dramatic of a drop in production from one season to another unless there's an injury or something that we don't know about, which is highly possible because George Springer has been known to hit the IL a few times every season. He actually did play a lot of games last season, which was surprising. But honestly, I don't think that's the case right now. His K percentage is 3% lower than his career numbers. The walk rate is 1% lower than his career number, so it's not that bad. Expected batting average is right in line with his last 3 seasons. He has a 38% sweet spot percentage, which is 5% higher than his career numbers. He's just not hitting the ball as hard as he has in the past, which I think is the biggest issue for him. Current average exit velocity is 87.2 miles per hour. It was 88.3 miles per hour in previous seasons. Max exit velocity this season is 109.5. Last season was 115.9. So there's still time. He could increase that max exit velocity, but so all his home runs, his 3 home runs were away, 0 home runs at home. And I think that maybe it's just the ballpark, and in Toronto, it's been really cold. They haven't even had a single game that's been over 70 degrees. So most of the games that they've been playing have been in colder weather. And a lot of these guys, the ball doesn't really travel that well in colder weather. It travels much better. The air is thinner when the weather's warmer. The high so far in Toronto has been 60 degrees. So his 2 home runs in the beginning of the season and the first week were actually in Tampa Bay, where they have a dome, and 1 home run in Kansas City, where Kansas City's not a home run ballpark, but the home run that he hit was 108 miles per hour, and he pulled it on an 85 mile an hour slider. So that's going to be gone in any ballpark. I think that the same thing with George Springer that I think with Gleyber Torres is you kind of just got to give him a little bit of time. This season across the whole league has been cold. I think we're barely starting to get some warmer weather, and even in the states where you expect it to be warm, like California or Arizona, it's been colder there too, colder than usual. Arizona has the dome, so I guess that really wouldn't matter too much. But I think that's why George Springer was actually able to hit his home runs in Tampa, because the weather really wouldn't matter so much because of the environment that they're playing in. So George Springer is another one that I don't feel comfortable dropping yet. We actually saw him make an amazing diving catch in left field yesterday, and the opposing team, the Phillies, actually got an RBI out of it. But it was great to see his defense there, and it kind of shows that he really shouldn't have any lingering issues, like injury issues right now. I think that he's just done a little bit of a cold streak, and most of it is because that he's not hitting the ball as hard, and the expected batting average is a little bit higher, so he's just getting unlucky. So what do you guys think about George Springer? John, start with you first.
I haven't watched enough of the Blue Jays, but have they been playing indoors even though it's so cold out because they have the retractable roof? You know that or no?
I don't think that they put it up for just being cold, because that's something that they have to deal with all the time. I think it's more rain and snow that they put the roof up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, George Springer's a guy, like you said, almost like I like him more than I like a guy like Gleyber Torres. I mean, he's a big name. I think at a prime position like outfield, you need guys, and we know what he can do. I think it's safe to say he has been, slowly degressing, over the past few years, and without banging up trash cans and all that. Sorry, Dodgers fans. But yeah, I mean, I'm not dropping George Springer. He's another guy. If I could get some value on the trade market, I would absolutely listen. But I would stay patient with George Springer, only just because where he is in that lineup too. The Blue Jays as a team just haven't been much fun to watch this year, and something's got to give eventually. So if other guys start getting hot, I could see him getting pretty hot too. So I could see it.
Yeah, hitting is definitely contagious. Baseball is a contagious sport. When one guy starts getting on a hot streak, a lot of the guys just kind of like seem to follow. It's a very emotional sport. It's not just about all skill. It's a very, very mental game. And if your head's not in it, then it kind of shows in your game. you know, and once these guys actually get excited about playing, when they see their teammates, you know, start to be doing better, then, you know, hitting's contagious. And I think that it's really just going to take one spark plug. Like, even take Bo Bichette, who has been just really bad so far this season. Usually he's batting 315, 320. I think he's at like a 215 mark or even less right now. Same thing with Vlad. You know, usually Vlad has some power, and he hasn't really shown too much of that. Not enough anyway. And you know, there was a lot of guys on the team that they really thought were going to be like amazing, you know, it turned out to be just mid, like Kevin Biggio. So I think that they have the lineup. I think the warmer the weather gets, the more these guys are kind of gonna turn around and actually be, you know, the ball club that we thought Toronto was going to be this season coming in. Javi, anything on George Springer?
Yeah, he how old is George Springer? 30 what?
He's 32.
I'm gonna say
I mean,
33.
he's still I mean, I feel like he's still got some pep in his step. I think where his real value is
He's
though
34.
is
Wow.
just okay. Yeah, so I'm thinking minus the trash cans, maybe the age is kind of coming into play a little bit. You know, the lingering injuries, you know, after you're injured, your body's really not the same, man. It doesn't react the same. But from what you're saying from last night's game, it might not be the injuries that you know are holding him back. I honestly think that his real value is his veteran leadership, and that's where I feel like aside from his game, right, he should focus more on trying to help these younger guys out. You know, a couple years ago, everybody was very high on Toronto. You know, wow, they got Bichette, they got Guerrero, you know, they got Biggio, which wasn't an everyday player, but you know, Alejandro Kirk, you know, all these little, you know, all these dudes, dude, they were kind of like the team, you know, people were excited for the Toronto, and then you bring in George Springer, and you're like, yo, like that's the veteran that they needed, right? And you know, they had Matt Chapman too, you know, so I don't know what happened in Toronto, dude, where I just feel like the morale there is very low. You know, I don't want to say it, you know, it's the weather because everybody has to deal with it. You know, it's not just Toronto. Um, you know, but you know, with Springer, if he can, you know, he was usually the spark plug for the Astros. You know, when they were down, you know, 2-0, who was over there? You know, Springer Dinger, you
Springer
know,
Day.
first plate appearances, home runs, you know, like, dude, that's and that would just lift up the Astros as a whole. So, you know, maybe Springer needs to approach the game a little bit different, and just be that spark plug that you were just talking about, Will. So, I definitely wouldn't drop him. You know, guys like that, I feel like they'll rhythm back, and they'll get back on track, and maybe it'll be like a domino effect, and it'll help out the Blue Jays as a whole, you know. But yeah, yeah, the Blue Jays have been very very weird, man, and I don't know what it is, dude, but you know, maybe Springer's that dude that he could be that dude that he was with the Astros and just help uplift the team, man, and just pick up the morale there because they just look like they're out of it, bro. It's just weird. Weird. They have so many good players, man.
Yeah, but then you also see, like, in their own division, you know, you see like the Yankees that go out and get Juan Soto, you know, and you see the Rays that just are the team that just drafts so well and they're always in it, you know, and then Baltimore now, like they're like the powerhouse in the American League. And maybe they're just a little intimidated by all these other teams like making all these moves. And what have the Blue Jays done, you know, since the Springer signing and getting Gosman, you know? Other than that, it's been a while since they've actually like done something to bolster their team. So
I think they went all in on Shohei and just fell flat, and they were like, well, oh well.
yeah,
Yeah.
they hesitated. They waited too long to go out and make another splash and get someone else, and now it's turning around to bite him in the ass. And even guys like Jordan Romano, like their closer, we saw him give up a run yesterday, and He's just not the same as he usually is. But I'm just going to chalk it up to cold weather. And, it's not just the Blue Jays that are down, with batting average and production. There's a lot of teams, a lot of players that just have that are in a huge slump right now. And I think because it's so many players, I have to chalk it up just to the weather, man. When you have so many different guys, there has to be a common denominator, and that's really the only thing that I can think of that's really really hindering, a lot of players. And if you've played baseball before and you try to hit a baseball in 60-degree weather, it does not feel good on your hands, and the ball just doesn't travel as far, and yeah, I think as the weather warms up, I think we're going to see batting averages rise pretty significantly and pretty fast. Like yesterday we were at the game and it was 90 degrees, and we saw a high scoring game actually from Toronto. I think they ended the game with 5 runs, right?
5-3, yeah, 5-2, 5-3.
Yeah, so 5 runs, that's pretty decent, that's a good number to see from your home team if you're a Blue Jays fan. But all right, that's enough on George Springer. We have already been on for 40 minutes and we still have a lot of guys that we want to talk about. All right, so real quick. All right. Today's episode is sponsored by Rival Fantasy, your all-in-one sports fantasy platform. Make sure to check out rivalfantasy.com or download the Rival Fantasy app using code RealTalkBaseball. Fantasy baseball is what our show is all about, and Rival Fantasy's unique sports betting platform includes best ball, fantasy bingo, daily and weekly drafts, and daily challenges. When you use the code RealTalkBaseball, Rival Fantasy will match your first deposit up to $200. So unfortunately, like I've mentioned before, Rival Fantasy is not available in Pennsylvania, but Javi and I are able to use it because they unlocked our account. And John, I forgot to email the guy, so that way you can start using it also, but I will email him today. If you could just shoot me a text later and remind me, so that way I can make sure that I email him after the show today.
Got you.
All right, so we have Waiver Wire and we have weekend streamers. So let's go with Waiver Wire first, guys. Who went first last time?
Javi did. So I'll lead it off. I'll start with a guy you guys should know pretty well. I love Johnny DeLuca out of left field, literally. Well, I guess he's playing center field, but this is a guy who was traded to Tampa in the offseason. He was not the headline of the trade, but he was traded along with Ryan Pepio in the Tyler Glasnow trade. 25th round pick in the 2019 MLB draft by Los Angeles. And I remember hearing about this guy just a little bit last year. Just a guy that the Dodgers didn't have room for in their crowded outfield, which is understandable. But he last season played 24 games for the Dodgers, hit .262 with a couple home runs, 6 RBI, and 45 plate appearances. So not too bad. Breaking down his minor stats a little bit, he hit .294 with 17 homers and 53 RBIs, and also added 12 stolen bases in 73 minor league games last year with the Dodgers. So this is a guy that coming into the 2024 season with the Rays, he was a lock to make the roster and broke his hand early into spring training. So that was a little bit disappointing for them to kick off the season. But now in his age 25 season, he's making a case as an intriguing pickup if you guys need an outfielder. So as of right now, he's been an everyday outfielder for the Rays. He's hitting 308 in 16 plate appearance, or he hit 308 in 16 plate appearances in spring training. Got another 25 plate appearances down in AAA this year, where he hit 300 with 2 homers and 6 RBIs. And then now in the majors, he is batting .350, 1 home run, 10 RBIs, couple stolen bases, 435 OBP, and 1085 OPS. So he couldn't get off to a better start if he tried. This is a guy I don't expect to keep up this pace, but if this is a guy that you just need, as a waiver wire pickup, someone got hurt, or you're just looking for a little bit of spark in your lineup, this is a guy that I would be adding. He's also, the Rays have been hot, not just because of their City Connect jerseys. I think they're 4-0 or 5-0 in their City Connect jerseys, something along those lines. But I mean, this guy has been a big spark for them so far. So another thing the Rays never really seem to lose a trade. Not saying that Tyler Glasnow for Pepio and DeLuca's, a slam dunk by any means. I think it's a fair trade for both sides, but I do like this kid a lot. He's 38.9% sweet spot percentage. The numbers look good. He's exciting. And as of right now, as of today, he was only owned in 6% of ESPN leagues and 20% of Yahoo leagues. And, this is a guy that I would definitely add and take a wire on. So.
Yep, I completely agree. And because we're running short on time, I just want to say that I agree with you. Javi, do you agree with John on Johnny DeLuca?
Yes, I do. If he's available, pick him up.
Yes, he should be closer, I think, to like 50 to 60% rostered right now. So if Johnny DeLuca is available, if you have a struggling outfielder that you don't mind dropping, go out and pick up Johnny DeLuca. All right, Javi, let's go into your waiver wire pick.
All right, my waiver wire pickup is Brian De La Cruz from the Marlins. He is rostered in 52% of Yahoo, 20% in ESPN. Mind you, I wrote these notes like 2 days ago, so it might be a little bit higher. I'm not really sure. Also, his stats might be a little bit higher as well. He's batting as of I think Tuesday, 263, 7 home runs, 20 RBIs, 41 strikeouts, and 11 walks in 164 plate appearances. He is one of the more positive stories in the Marlins lineup. The Marlins, they just had a series against the Dodgers. They put up a pretty good fight, I would say, but he was one of the bright spots. He hit a bomb off of Yamamoto. I don't really dive into the metrics and stuff like you guys do, Will and John, but I did look at his max exit velocity at 111.2 miles per hour, which is insane. Over his past 7 games, he's hitting over 300. This dude crushes the ball. If he is available, scoop him up because it looks like he is on a heater right now. And you know what I say about, guys that are on a hot streak, just ride that hot wave, man. And if you got, there's a lot of injuries out there, throughout, all the rotations, outfield, there's a lot of outfielders out there that are injured. If you have room, for an extra outfielder, I would definitely scoop this guy up because it looks like he is not slowing down. You think about the Dodgers and their pitching rotation, and you would think that, well, they're gonna dominate the Marlins. Well, this dude was like, nope, I'm gonna hit one off of Yamamoto, and it's gonna, I'm gonna kick ass. So, so if he's available, definitely, I would definitely take a chance on this guy, especially with all the lingering injuries that are out there.
Yep, I got Brian De La Cruz in one of my leagues, just like I have Johnny DeLuca in one of my leagues. So I'm on it on the waiver wire, and hopefully everyone listening is on it on the waiver wire. And 2 great outfield picks if you need an outfielder. All right, no, my pick is not an outfielder. He's actually not an position player at all. He is a pitcher, and my pick is Christian Scott. Now, I do have a video that I prepared. I just want you guys to watch this. Now, this is Christian Scott. Watch this slider, man. Look how far outside the zone, and he's getting guys to swing and miss at this. Way outside the zone. That's 2 feet out of the zone. Look at those swings and misses, man. Christian Scott, I think is. I think my comp to Christian Scott, which I told this to John yesterday, is Aaron Nola. He's the guy that's going to get a lot of strikeouts, has amazing movement on his slider, whereas Aaron Nola, I think, is more of like a curveball guy. But, it's still the same thing. You're going to get swings and misses on these pitches with a great fastball. The problem is he leaves the fastball high inside the zone, and a lot of times that is going to just leave the yard. And the home run ball has been the Achilles heel for both Aaron Nola and for Christian Scott. Another comp would be your boy Javi, Joe. What's the pitcher's name? Damn it, Joe something. Twins.
Joe Ryan.
Joe Ryan. Thank you for that.
Joe
See,
Ryan.
yeah, see that's why we got 3 guys on the show. So that way, when I'm missing something, you guys can pick me up. But yeah, Joe Ryan is another one where a lot of strikeout potential, but he gives up so many home runs, So if you value Joe Ryan, if you value Aaron Nola the way that the rest of the league does, I think you can value Christian Scott in the same regard. He is a little bit younger than both of those guys, but at the moment, he is only 35% rostered. He was drafted in 2021 in the 5th round. So earlier rounds, he is believed to be, a decent early round pick. Made his debut at Tampa Bay on May 4th. He went 6.2 innings, allowed 5 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned run, and 6 Ks on 94 pitches. And to see that in your MLB debut, where they actually believe that you can go out and throw 94 pitches, like that's amazing, man. They just kind of like let him go. And why not? He only gave up 5 hits. That's great. Very impressive start by Christian Scott. Had 18 whiffs, 8 on the fastball, 6 on the sweeper, 4 on the slider with a 35% CSW. Now, for those who don't know what CSW is, it's a called strike plus a whiff. So it's a strike in the strike zone and whiffed on. That was total of 94 pitches. So all 3 of his main pitches had a whiff percentage of at least 35% or higher. Great swing and miss stuff. Christian Scott's slider had a 44% whiff rate, while only 35% of his sliders were actually thrown in the zone. So he's getting a lot of swings outside of the zone with his slider. It just shows you how nasty his stuff is. So why isn't Christian Scott universally rostered? Well, 5 starts in AAA this year. Scott has already given up 7 home runs, and that's the Achilles heel, for Christian Scott. But in 3 levels in the minors last season, he only gave up 5 home runs in 19 starts. So there is a lot of upside in the majors. It's going to be a little bit different for him, but I think being the type of prospect that he is, he's not regarded as like a top prospect by any means, but I think that this could be like a dark horse or like a hidden gem that if he's available in your league, I definitely recommend picking him up. I guarantee that there's someone on your pitching staff that you could easily just drop for a guy like Christian Scott. And the last time I checked, he was only 35% rostered. So he is widely available in a lot of leagues, and I got him in one of my leagues, and unfortunately in the 3 other leagues I'm in, he was already picked up. If I see someone drop Christian Scott, I am definitely going after him.
I like your Nola comp there, but I will actually say I think he reminds me a little bit more of Zach Wheeler. Mets, number 45. He almost looks like him on, standing on the mound and his posture and everything else, and he's got the stuff, but just took Wheeler a while to put it all together too. So I could kind of see that comp a little bit.
Yeah, I think team context is a lot too, and the Mets, they're just they're kind of an embarrassment, of how much money that they've spent in the past few seasons and just not panning out. The owner thinking that he's like the general manager of baseball, that he actually knows what he's doing. Like, that's fine that you have a bunch of money, but let the guys that you hired run the team. Don't try to run the team yourself. So bringing up Christian Scott, I think it was a good move by the Mets, especially because they lost Kodai Senga, who should be returning within the next month or so, hopefully. But yeah. All right. So that was Waiver Wire, and we're not doing so bad. We're at 53 minutes and 30 seconds. So get rid of this guy. All right, so let's go into weekend streamers, and I do have this as well for everyone to see. Ooh, it's a little bit small, but hopefully you guys can see this. So there's a lot of weekend streamers to choose from. I'm going to start with this one and go with my pick, and I probably should have picked someone that was a little less rostered than Javier Assad, but when I checked, he was only 59% rostered. And then yesterday, when I was going through my notes again, he was at 61% rostered, unfortunately. So Javier Assad's 3rd big league season. In 2022, he had a 3.11 ERA with 30 strikeouts, 20 walks in eight starts in 37 innings. So the walks are the biggest issue for Javier Assad, so Hopefully, if he gives up a home run, it'll only be a solo shot, without runners on base. That would be optimal. But the ERA is actually pretty decent. So as I said, in 2022, he had a 3.11 ERA. In 2023, he had a 3.05 ERA with 94 strikeouts, 41 walks, and 10 starts in 109 innings pitched. So far this season, 166 ERA, 31 Ks in 38 innings pitched. He's not a big strikeout pitcher, 12 walks. So the walks seem to be the Achilles heel for him. Velo is down about a mile per hour on each pitch, which is actually, I think it's actually intentional because he's a full-time starting pitcher now. Out of his 32 appearances in 2023, he only made 10 starts. Most of his appearances were out of the bullpen. So it only makes sense that he doesn't throw out of his shoes every single pitch anymore. Otherwise, he would probably only be out there for maybe 80 or so pitches. I think he would just get too tired. So, yeah, I think that's why he is actively trying to drop his velocity a little bit on each pitch. You don't have to throw everything that you got on every single pitch as a starting pitcher. As a reliever, it's different because you're probably only going to throw 15, 20 pitches, unless you're a multi-inning reliever. But as a starting pitcher, you're trying to go out there and give at least 6 innings to your team. So, conserving his energy a little bit, I think it's probably a good decision. As the 166 ERA has shown, it probably is a good decision. Now, this Saturday, Assad will take his 166 ERA to Pittsburgh against the struggling Pirates. Pirates are 25th in batting average against right-handed pitchers. So honestly, I love this matchup. Sorry, he is 61% rostered. It might actually be even a little bit more today because I haven't checked his roster percentage today. So hopefully you didn't miss the hype train on Javier Assad, and he's still available in your league for pickup. All right, so that was my weekend streamers. Sorry, trying to get through this pretty quickly because we're running short on time. All right, John, who is your weekend streamer?
I like James Paxton this weekend. Paxton's going up against the Padres on Saturday, so just love the Padres-Dodgers little rivalry they got going. And Paxton's entering Saturday with a perfect 4-0 record, 3.06 ERA in 6 games pitched this season. His StatCast numbers don't jump off the page. It's not saying that he's doing anything great, but he's been very efficient, and he's getting run support too. So overall, he's got a nice 94-mile-an-hour fastball, using that 23% of the time with his curveball. The Padres so far in 2024 have really struggled against lefties as a team, hitting 206. Padres are also sending out Matt Waldron to face Paxton, and Waldron owns a 1-4 record with a 5.82 ERA. So the Dodgers lineup should attack him, provide Paxton with some good run support, hopefully a win. Paxton's only owned in 9.8% of ESPN leagues, 30% of Yahoo leagues, and guy doesn't have a loss this year yet, and basically a sub-3 ERA, so it's worth a pickup.
Nice. Whenever anyone recommends a Dodgers pitcher, I'm all in.
Exactly.
All right, Hob, your
Of
weekend.
course. All right. Real quick, can you tell me who the Orioles are playing this weekend? I forgot to write this shit.
The Orioles are playing.
Angels? No.
Arizona.
The Diamondbacks. Okay.
Diamondbacks.
All right. So with that being said, my guy is Dean Kremer. He is owned in 35% of Yahoo, 26% ESPN as of the day that I wrote these notes. So he has a 3-2 record, 3.57 ERA with a 0.97 WHIP. Started off a little funky, but his last 3 games, he's gone 3-0 with a 1.96 ERA, 20 strikeouts, 6 walks, and 18 and a third innings pitch. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes I feel like the Orioles pitching rotation is kind of weird. They have a great record, and I know they're in the top 10 as far as pitching rotations go. But dude, sometimes they're a little weird to me. Like Corbin Burns sometimes seems to be off. Kyle Bradish just came back. Rodriguez, Grayson, he's on the IL. He should be coming back soon. I feel like Dean Kramer has been like one of the more consistent pitchers in their rotation. Um, they being fifth, at the back end, you don't have that pressure really, to be the guy. And I feel like he's just been very consistent his last three starts, man. I'm telling you, 3-0, 196. That's great. The Diamondbacks have not been the Diamondbacks that we saw last season, man. I think I'm one of those guys that called it. I think it was a damn fluke that they were, in the World Series. I think it's a damn fluke. And I still think so. And I think the Orioles are going to feast on the Diamondbacks. They're a great offensive team. So, if Dean Kramer is available, which, it looks 35% and 26. I don't know today what the percentages is. If he's there, I would definitely take him if he's available, dude.
Yeah, I think I agree with all the picks that we have today for the weekend streamers. Like you said, Arizona, I think there's something to be said about the World Series hangover, and I've always been a big believer in the World Series hangover, at least in Texas this season also, because Texas isn't playing, like they should be, like World Series champions, even the stars on the team, like Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, like they're not playing up to their full potential. But I think I'm just gonna, double down on what I said earlier and just kind of chalk it up to the weather. I think the cold weather has just been hindering just too many guys this season. And, in addition to that, with the World Series hangover for Texas and for Arizona. So I could definitely, I was actually big on Dean Kramer before the season, got started, him and Kyle Bradish. I really like the Baltimore pitching. Unfortunately, injuries kind of like hinder pitchers in Baltimore this season a little bit early with, John Means as well. But dude, imagine what the Orioles can do when they have all their pitchers and they're all fully healthy with all four of those guys, and then not even mentioning Grayson Rodriguez, that's a scary 5-man rotation right there.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
And unfortunately, Grayson Rodriguez is on the IL, but hopefully it'll be just a short stint. And I did want to take I wanted to talk about Wilson Contreras a little bit, getting hit by the pitch. I don't think we have a lot of time left, but I do want to show this video for those who haven't seen it. So this is Wilson Contreras.
What a freak accident, bro.
Yeah, honestly, it's the Cardinals' fault. The Cardinals pitching staff's fault. They told him to scoot up a little bit.
Bro, my God.
Yeah, I'm gonna play that again, so just everyone can focus on just that last scene that I kind of just like zoomed in on and slowed down a little bit. Check it out right here, real quick. Oh, right there on the top.
That's insane, bro.
Fractured his forearm, dude. And the Cardinals pitching staff actually told Wilson Contreras still a little bit closer to the plate and try to steal strikes before they get out of the strike zone. And that was actually my initial thought. I wonder if he was trying to steal a strike, from batters, the batter thinking that it's going to be dropping out of the zone, but then Wilson Contreras goes out and pulls it back right into the zone for a called strike. And that I actually had I saw on Instagram today that took a screenshot of it. It says the Cardinals moved Contreras up closer to the plate in an attempt to get more low pitches called strikes. JD Martinez swung and the end of his bat hit Contreras on the wrist and broke his wrist. The coaching needs to be fired. Absolutely ridiculous. And that is from Baseball King on Instagram. So yeah, I completely agree. Like, why would a coach tell the catcher to move closer to the plate when these guys are trying to hit the ball over 100 miles an hour? If you can smack a ball out of the park, on a single swing, what's going to happen to a bone, with the bat? So,
not that JD Martinez isn't a strong guy anymore, but does Wilson Contreras even have a forearm anymore if that's Giancarlo Stanton or Ohtani swinging that bat?
Dude, did you see Giancarlo Stanton's home run? I think it was
The fastest one.
119.9.
Yeah.
Sorry, having a little choke in the tech. 119.2 miles per hour, I think, off the bat.
30.
Incredible, dude. Incredible.
That's crazy. Insane.
Yeah, man. That's probably going to be the highest max exit velocity of the league
So
this
far.
season.
Yep.
I know we got to wrap up soon here, but I did want to hit one thing, if you guys don't mind, for just a minute. I know one thing I brought up was just talking about the trades that happened in the week prior in our fantasy leagues. So I just want to say I did trade away Ryan Mountcastle and got back Seiya Suzuki. So kind of curious in the comments just what you guys think on who won that trade. And then another trade that happened in one of my other leagues. So I actually had Acuna, and I had traded him in a larger deal for Freddie Freeman and Ellie De La Cruz.
Ooh.
And the guy who I traded Acuna to now flipped Acuna for Harper. So it was just an Acuna for Harper straight up, which I thought was interesting too. So just a couple trades that went down in my leagues that I thought we could, don't need to spend a ton of time breaking them down, not this week at least, but interesting trades here.
Yeah, for anyone listening, if you have any insights on those trades, go ahead and put them in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think about them. All right, so we are at an hour and 5 minutes. Unfortunately, that has to be the conclusion of our show today.
Real quick, Will.
Go for it.
I know you're happy. Your boy Paul Skeens is coming up.
Oh, yes, I cannot wait for this. Add Paul Skeens if he is available in your league, which is probably not because I think he's like 85% rostered now. Yes, add Paul Skeens if you can. And if you are in redraft leagues, I think that this could be a huge sell high candidate because no one knows how he's actually going to be in 2024. Like, this dude has 66% strikeout rate, and the pedigree is just incredible. They're calling him like the biggest pitching prospect since Steven Strasburg. So that in itself is worth a lot. If you can get your hands on Paul Skeens for cheap, if he's available in your waiver wire, put in your bids, put in your waiver orders or free agency, like whatever you can do to get your hands on Paul Skeens. And if you do have Paul Skeens and you have a loaded pitching staff, I would try to flip him for something huge in return for someone that is really big on Paul Skeens. Not in a keeper league like what we have. I would definitely hold on to him. But if you can get like a Matt Olson, who's a struggling hitter, out of a Paul Skeens, I think that I would accept that trade myself. Knowing what Matt Olson did last season, if I don't have a solid first baseman, so in one of my leagues, I have Ty France as my starting first baseman. So if I had Paul Skeens and I could flip him for Matt Olson, I would totally do that.
Yeah, I like that move.
All right, guys. We have reached the end of our show. Make sure you click that like and subscribe button and scan that QR code in the top right corner to follow all of our social medias. If you have any questions, fantasy baseball related or baseball related, you can put them in the comments here on YouTube, or you can go to our Instagram page. And I'm pretty quick about answering the Instagram questions. And also, if you liked our player breakdown segment, make sure you submit the players that you would like to have us break down for you. You can put them in the comments or on Instagram, or you can email us at realtalkbaseball@yahoo.com. Make sure you check in on Sunday. We have the Sunday guys that always give a good show. That would be Carlos and Ernie. This Sunday, I believe they go on at, is it 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time? Oh, no, it's earlier than that. I think it's 7 o'clock.
It's 7 and then 10 over here.
Yeah, so 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. So check them out, please. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe on every video that you check out. And if you're listening on the audio side on Spotify, make sure you click subscribe and ring that bell so you can get all the notifications. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks. See ya.